Hello, and welcome to the Content Systems for Growth podcast with me, Michelle Dewey. Today, I'm so excited to welcome our special guest, Gabe Cox. Gabe is a goal planning and business strategist and the founder of Red Hot Mindset. She helps entrepreneurs personalize and takes action on game plans that work with their capacity in different seasons so that they don't have to sacrifice everything to hit their goals. She teaches how to market your business without relying on social media so you can ditch the hustle culture for good. Everyone, welcome Gabe Cox. Well, welcome, Gabe. I'm so excited to have you on my podcast today. I gave your bio already, but I would love to hear in your terms anything that you would like my listeners to know about you and your business, how you got your start, all of those things.
Yeah. Well, Michelle, it's so great to be here. I love getting connected with other business owners. And I would say the main things I got started, I guess 2020, 2018-ish, just writing my first book. Like I just wanted to be an author and didn't realize I was going to become a business owner. Right. So that was kind of a fun transition into the online space. Just personally, I have three boys. One is now out of the house. He's in school in college somewhere else, which is crazy. But my boys are now in new seasons too. I have middle school, high school, and graduated. And we love just as a family, like hiking. I love running. I love being in the outdoors. So my biggest thing is when can I go on adventures and just be out there in that space? But as a business owner, I've just loved being able to help others really um, glean wisdom or glean like passion for something that they really want to accomplish, a goal that they've had kind of stirring in their heart, and really help them be able to plan that in their season of life. Like, because everyone's season and capacities are different and they're different in every stage, as you probably well know too, Michelle. So that's just a little bit about me outside of the professional bio.
Oh, I love that. And welcome to adult children almost because I have three of them and it definitely is wonderful, but a change.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the change. Like even my oldest, it's like the conversations have changed and they're just so much more not more fun, but he's like more open even, but it's a different like I'm trying to make sure I back off and I'm not like telling him what to do anymore. I'm more just encouraging him and answering questions as he has them, but it's definitely a different space.
Yeah, it is. It is for sure. Well, anyways, I won't keep on with all the personal talk, but I have you on today to talk about social media and actually kind of breaking away and how we can break away our businesses from relying so much on social media. One of the things that I like to talk about a lot is lifelong content, organic content and how that affects our business. I'm very curious for how your different marketing happens for specifically for us Christian entrepreneurs that are out there that we feel all the pressure to be visible online all the time and what that would actually mean or what we need to shift in our minds to believe it's okay to not be on social media if we don't feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll share a little of my story with this because I had a lot of mindset barriers I had to break with it. Because when I first started online, it was 2018, 2019. So social media was kind of still working to build an audience for visibility, to gain followers. I wouldn't say it actually worked for me to gain clients or sales, though. I always felt like I was just creating all this content, pushing content out, having to go in there, like things, comment on things. And I felt really tied and constrained to it. I also didn't like that I had to create so much content. Like that content was ever fleeting. So it only lasted for maybe 24 hours, 48 if you're lucky, but really not even. And so it just became like this hamster wheel of what I felt like I had to do because I was told getting into business, you have to be online in social media. Like you have to have profiles in all the different places and you need to be there constantly engaging, liking, commenting, all the things. And so I did all that and I did it for years. And I can tell you, Michelle, I probably have sales on one hand. Like I can count how many sales I've gotten from social media, from DMs, from all the things. And I just realized it just wasn't working for me and it was stealing my peace. So, kind of back in the chaos of what 2020, 2021 was, all I saw on there was things I don't want to see. All the negative, all the discord, all the, just blah. And it was kind of making me, I'd get on there, scroll, because when you get on there, you end up on there a lot longer than you think you're going to be. And then I'd get off and I'd feel worse about myself and about the world and about everything. And I also felt all this pressure because now, I mean, we're in a world of technology where you can know everything about everything everywhere. So, like, you used to only know about your bubble or your community. Now you know about everything going on internationally, and all those burdens come on you, right? But we were never meant to carry all of those burdens. Like, we were meant to be in community, which really means being in your area. What can you do where you are? Because we can't do things from here everywhere else. Like, we can support in some ways, right? We can give time, we can go on missions, we can do some of those things, but we can't really affect others from far away. And so, like, I just felt ick. And I was like, is there something more? I don't want to keep doing this. I feel like I'm creating content everywhere. It's not working the way I want. My business isn't growing. My podcast isn't growing. And so I honestly, it was January of 2023. So it's been a few years now that I've been off social media, but I really felt this nudge from God. And he was like, get off. Like, I don't want you there. And I don't think everyone should get off social media. I think there is some reason for influencers to be there, some business owners to be there, because we need to be a light. We need to be a light wherever we are. And so some are called to it. But I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You want me to get off social media? Like, how am I going to have visibility? How am I going to grow? This isn't going to work. Right. Like, I think sometimes when we hear from God about something and he's like, do it this way, and you're going, that's not the way of the world. That's not going to work. Well, the reason he's telling you to do it is because he's like, test me. Let me show you that I can do it. Like, you can't do it, but I can do it. So I said, okay, I'm going to get off. I'll do kind of like a quote unquote fast for 30 days. And in that 30 days, I felt so much better in just life, in business, than I did in years. And so I made the decision just to stay off. I was like, I don't know how long, but I haven't gone back since. A couple things with that too is my podcast, I was stagnant, like it wasn't growing. And in that 30 days, my podcast grew 400%. It was crazy. And I'm
Wow.
like, okay, well, that's cool. It grew. But I can't take credit for it. I have no idea how it grew. But the reason it grew, in my opinion, is I was obedient to what I was told to do that I felt like was super countercultural, was not going to help my business, those types of things. But because I was obedient to it, he said, watch me. Like, you don't have to do it the way everyone else says. You don't have to do it the way the gurus say. I know what's going to work for you in the season you're in, with the capacity that you have, with the real life that you have. I feel like a lot of times gurus are talking about do it this way, this way, this way, but they forget to mention, oh yeah, if you're a parent, you probably don't have the time to do it that way. Or, if you want to be in real life and you want to be present with the people you love, then you probably shouldn't do it this way, right? And so it kind of took me on a journey of, let's do things differently. Like, we don't have to do it the way of the world. We can do it differently. But that was a mindset shift that came, it sparked from me getting off, and I'm off for life and business. Like, I'm not in there enjoying it either. I don't enjoy watching people on their phones. I don't enjoy when I go in there, because I still have my accounts. I haven't deleted them. If I do go in there, I don't have any joy. I just get off right away, because I was like, yeah, don't like it. Not my thing. So, and we can maybe talk about some of the shifts we can make as you try the fast, like if you decide it's for you. But that was the first mindset shift, was you don't have to do it the way everyone says. You can find a way that actually will work for you, and it will work if you stay in that lane.
I love that. I'm curious then. So, what do you do for your non-social media marketing? Because if it's worked out so well for you and the 400% increase in your podcast, you and I both know that's because of obedience and listening to it and understanding that I just need to try it and see if this is actually what he's saying to me. But I mean, do you have a way that you do it now
Yeah,
besides
I
social
do.
media?
It's a simple. So I also, one of my mottos is how can I blank simply? So anything that I do, I'm like, how can I do this simply? How can I do the marketing simply? How can I, declutter my house simply? How can I create a meal plan simply? Right. But it was one of those things where I was like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. Like, how do I do it? I knew I was supposed to lean into the podcast because that was one of my marketing tactics. It was one of my pillars. And I was thinking, okay, so let's lean more into that. If I'm not on social media, I can be more intentional with what I'm putting out on the podcast. So I started there. So podcasting is my main marketing platform when it comes to long form content. I do not repurpose it to be show notes on my website. I do not repurpose it as a blog. It does now go on YouTube, but I didn't do that for a long time either. I now do it because my podcast is working and maintaining and doing well, and I have the capacity to add it. But I think what I learned is you got to focus in on the one thing and think about the one thing could be a couple things, but like, what is the one thing you really want to be intentional with and that you want to grow? Now, once you get that one thing working really well, like my podcast is working really well now I can add YouTube if I want, or I could add something else, another layer. So that was the first thing. I leaned into the podcast. But then I was like, okay, if I'm not visible on social media, how are people going to find me? Because yes, SEO works, but SEO is kind of a long game, a little bit slower game. And so I leaned into how do I want to nurture them? If I'm not nurturing them on social media, then I want to do it in my email. So my email list, I engage with them, I nurture them. It is a place where they do know, like, and trust me. And I feel like I get so much more engagement there than I ever did on my not on my podcast, on social media. And I also feel like I can make more of an impact. I can give them a better response. I can just like have that kind of one-to-one with them as I need to. But obviously, they get on your list somehow. You have to find them for them to come join you. They have to know who you are and want to be a part of that community. So I really leaned into connections with other business owners. Which a lot of people call collaborating. So here's one thing I learned, and this is like going about it solo for a while, right? Like we were never meant to do business alone. We were never meant to do life alone. Like we are built for community. And part of that is I have my strengths. I know what I do well, but I know what I don't do well. And so I want to surround myself with others who do that thing well. Like I don't need to work on my weakness per se, like some weaknesses maybe, but I don't need to work on my main weaknesses. I need to work on my strengths and surround myself with those who are strong in my weakness. And I feel like that's what collaboration's all about. It's all about growing together. And, it's a win win for business owners. And when I'm talking about collaboration, what I mean specifically is partnering with someone else who already has a larger audience than myself or a similar audience, but really adding value to their audience. So, for example, what we're doing right now, we're doing a podcast swap. So I'm going to come share with your audience, Michelle. You're coming to share with my audience, and we can affect them just a little bit differently than like you can affect them differently than I could, and vice versa. And so that's a win. Like I'm getting great content from my podcast when you're coming on, and you're getting to teach something that I don't normally teach or something
Mm.
that's maybe not my strength. I love lead magnet swaps, which are, I'm going to share one of your resources with my email list, and you can share one of your resources with your email list, and they will find and get to know me and decide maybe I want to come see what you're doing and come pop on your list so that I can get encouraged and tips for goal planning and business strategy. And the other main one that I do is I love to be a part of events. So I love to be a speaker in online events, in-person events, that type of a thing. But that has been the biggest growth vehicle for me is the collaboration. And there's so many different ways you can do it. We could talk about lots of different ways if you want to, but I also say hone in on the one or two or three, like hone in on the ones that work for you, that really make you energized, that you enjoy doing, because you'll do more of it then and it'll be more beneficial. But I'll tell you, as I started leaning into partnerships, I told you my podcast grew 400%. Well,
Mm.
over the next year, so I had my email list was like 300, 350 people at that time. 12 months later, it had gone up 100%. I had 3,500 people. on my email list that I was serving. And I was like, that would have never happened had I stayed on social media and focused there instead of leaning into connections and partnerships. So that's like my favorite way to grow outside of social media.
I love that so much. And yes, I would like you to go into a little bit more like how you got into the collaboration. Like, what were your first things that you did to actually start that? Because especially the speaking, that can be very nerve-wracking for somebody. I think if you're a podcast host or even a YouTuber, it's a little bit easier after you've done a few episodes to really get into it. But it still can be scary to get in front of somebody else's audience and talk to them. Anything that you would like to go into how you got started in collaboration, that would be beautiful for you to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you're starting with a really small audience, sometimes it's hard, or you have this pressure of like, well, why would they want to collaborate with me? I don't have an audience, but you have value to give. So you just have to find that gap. So what someone else is doing, what they're talking about, you might have a different spin on it, or you might have something isn't that would work really well, be very valuable to their audience, but they wouldn't be talking about it. That's what you're looking for when you're looking for those collaborations. You're also looking for, is their audience very much aligned with yours? Now, they don't have to be teaching the exact thing, but you want it to be your target audience. So, for example, I have my target audience is really, for the most part, entrepreneurs, probably in the 30 to 50 age range. Most of them are probably parents with a family, but their kids are getting a little bit older, right? So like, and they just want to really eliminate the hustle. They don't want to do it the way everyone says. They don't want to be in the grind anymore, but they still want to grow. They still feel like they have a goal, right? So I don't partner a lot with just women's events anymore because I serve both men and women. But for example, if it were just a women's event, maybe they're 30 to 50 age range. So the age range is right, but it's geared toward self-care or something like that, right? Like I could serve that audience pretty well. I have lots of topics I could talk about or goals or whatever, but I don't think it would necessarily grow my business as well as if I partnered with someone who is leaning into entrepreneurs who are going after a goal, but maybe they talk about, for example, Michelle, you talk a lot about content repurposing. So you probably have the same target audience that I do, but I talk about goal planning and business strategy. So we can partner in a really great way and serve each other's audiences. So I just want to put that out there. Like, first and foremost, don't just collaborate to collaborate, like actually be purposeful behind it as well. It's okay to say no to things. But when you get started, you don't really have people knocking at your door to have you in their audience, right? You have to do the knocking, and it can be very nerve wracking. But what I recommend and encourage is think about the things that you like to do. So if you are not a podcaster or you don't really like speaking in front of people, don't start there. Don't start with podcast pitching. Maybe you're a writer and you love creating content and you can do it all day long. All right, let's hone in on that. Maybe you can partner with different online magazines and you could give them articles, or you could be a guest on someone else's blog or on someone's Substack or whatever it is. Like, you can partner in those ways. Or for example, if you're a writer, Substack is a great option because it's not, I wouldn't call it social media, but you can connect on there. You can comment on people's posts and you can share each other's posts and find aligned audiences that way. So first and foremost is think about what is it that you really shine in and start with that. Now, I would encourage you to step out of your comfort zone and maybe eventually, okay, now I am going to pitch podcasts. Now I am going to do these things, because there are things that do grow your audience a little bit quicker. I would say being in events can grow your audience a little bit quicker because you're right out there. And I love it because people can hear and see you. And so it builds a little bit more trust right away out of the gate. So they're like, ooh, I want that voice in my life. Yes, I'm going to sign up for their email list. I'm going to work with them. But starting where you're at is perfect, right? So that didn't really completely answer your question, but I did want to preface that. But then also, it's okay to do hard things, right? We were
Mm-hmm.
not called
Mm-hmm.
to stay in our comfort zone. We weren't called to do what's easy. If our goal were easy, if growing a business were easy, everyone would do it and we'd all be millionaires, right? Like, if it were easy, that's what would happen. It's not easy. There's always going to be challenges. So I do recommend, think about, okay, what could I do to step out of my comfort zone just a tiny bit? And maybe that's a pre-recorded episode of some sort, right? Like, so sometimes you don't have to do it live. You don't have to do a podcast swap like we're doing, but you could be in an event and do a pre-recorded presentation. Maybe you do better recording on your own. And you could do something like that. Start with some of those things and see what you like, and then do more of what you're really liking and what's actually growing your business. So, yeah, I always say don't keep doing what's not working, do more of what's working, but we have to test to find what's going to work. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. It makes sense. And I love that because it actually, with you saying record something, it gives you that safety feeling. Because if you pre record something yourself, I know like the first time I ever did a video or a podcast, cannot tell you how many times I said the same line over and over and over again. So it just gives you that safety net that you can just practice and practice and practice until you actually get it down and feel comfortable and have the confidence that you need to be able to speak about your subject matter.
One other thing, too, I was just thinking about is you don't
Mhm.
have to speak about a ton of things. Think about what are the key things, what are your key pillars in your business anyway, and come up with a couple different topics, 2 or 3 topics that you can get really good at talking about. Practice that, and then it gets easier as well.
For sure. And that's the same with even your blog content that you create. It's those few things. The more you talk about it, the more you have those different keywords on your website. That helps all too with your SEO and people coming to your site. Well, I absolutely love the collaboration. I didn't know that's exactly where you were going to go with it. That's very interesting to me that you did that you took that courage and stepped out. Do you do a lot of virtual conferences then besides, I know you have your own. I hope you can tell us a little bit about that, but do you have other conferences that you like every year or on, or how do you do that for yourself?
Yeah, a lot of times I like to vary it and try different ones because then I'm
Hmm.
getting in front of different people, speaking about different things, whatnot. But there are some that I do every year because I really enjoy it. It has been aligned, it works really well in my strategy. And so if I'm asked back, I'll say yes, type of a thing. So I tend to do, I probably did too many events like early this year, but I tend to do maybe one a month max. But I like to do the bigger events at least once a quarter. And then I'll fill in with smaller things like a lead magnet swap. Because the other thing we have to think about in our collaboration is obviously we're promoting it to our people as well, which is great because it's maybe what they need at that time, but we can sometimes over promote. Like if I'm in too many events, I'm like, oh, do this one and do this one and do this one. Now I'm just confusing my people. They might get overwhelmed and they might leave. Right. And so I try not to overwhelm them too much with so many things going on. Like a lead magnet swap is 1-to-1. So it would only be my resource to your audience, your resource to my audience, and they're not like getting on a ton of lists all at the same time. Where an event, whatever resource you download, you're probably ending up on that business owner's email list and then the next, so you're picking and choosing who you're going to follow, but you are going to end up following them if you, and that could be, 25 people all at once. So I always kind of like space them out as much as possible. But yeah, if you get sometimes with those relationships, you'll find those events that work really well that you're like, I want to do it again next year. And it's almost a rinse and repeat as well, because
Mhm.
you've done that, you know how that business owner works, how they host and all that. But then also actually expanding and looking for other events is always beneficial too, because then you're getting in front of different audiences as well. And then one thought I had too was it's like book a meeting from a meeting kind of a thing, kind of a business type thing to think about. But let's say you love podcast swaps or like you love podcasting. If you have an interview with a podcaster, then ask them for a connection. Hey, what other podcaster that might be a great connection for me, and have them connect you. Like warm connections work better than cold pitches. And so if you can have just like that once removed connection, that works great. Or in events, like a lot of times when I was getting started, I would join events just as an attendee because I wanted to get to know those who were collaborating. Because if they were a speaker, I knew that they wanted to collaborate. So I could listen to a little bit of their talks. I could see what resonated, what would be valuable for my audience, and I could reach out to them and ask them about a collaboration. So that's a little tricky tip for you if you're just getting started and like, I don't know who I'd collaborate with. well, join a couple of events and get to know some people.
That's an awesome one. So then for somebody that has not watched virtual events or been part of virtual events, how do they actually find those to
Mhm.
do you have a trick for that as well where they can locate some of those different events so they can get on them themselves?
Yeah. So a lot of times, some of the people I follow will promote different events. So I'll start there. There's a couple places like I know there are some Facebook groups. Again, I'm not on Facebook. I used to in the beginning, I was in a couple groups, like even if you just search virtual events, like in groups or virtual bundles, that's another type of event. There are a couple groups for that. So then you can go in there and connect. And usually the host, the person moderating, is going to post different events that are coming up. So that's one way to do it. You can find some different directories online. So, like from some people that I follow, I've found different places to collaborate. Or also, if you are in an event, a lot of times that event host will share the speaker contacts with the speakers. So then they can collaborate together and they'll share, hey, I have an event coming up or whatnot. So it's like getting yourself into the space is the hardest part initially, but there's so many places out there that you can. But I would say if you're on Facebook, go grab a couple Facebook groups and start engaging there. You could even search like event directories. That's one of the things. So we have our event coming up. The other thing I wanted to share too, if you have zero audience, and you're like, well, no one's going to say yes to me being in a speaker at an event, because a lot of times you need to have some sort of an audience because you're promoting the event for the host. Having your own event. And it doesn't have to look like a huge 5-day summit like I put together, but it could just be a 1-day event where you just have a few different people come in and speak to your audience and you're sharing, you're all promoting together. Nobody asks the event host how many people are on their email list. Sneaky tip. So it is a lot of work to host an event, but it is my biggest lead generation every year. So if you have the capacity to, hosting your own event is a great way to get out there because now you're seen as an authority as well. You have the credibility, and any of the speakers who come, now you could collaborate with them in different ways, or they might host an event you can be a part of. So I would say, even if you're willing to host an event, you do not have to be front and center. You don't even have to speak at the event. So if you're an introvert, you can host an event without like having to do any of that. You're just doing the behind the scenes. For example, my event coming up is the Grow Your Biz Without Social virtual event. We teach strategies to faith fueled entrepreneurs for how to market without relying on social media or without using it at all, depending on what you want. Because some people, like I said, don't want to get off social media. If you like it, hone it, be there. Totally cool. But if you find it frustrating, let's come up with some different tips and strategies. So, in that event itself, this is one of my tips. Like, if you come to the event, we do networking sessions. So, live networking sessions where you can get to know others who might want to collaborate, might have events. And those who are in the VIP experience, we do a event directory. So we'll do attendees directory, how people want to collaborate. So it's a really great way to get started in that connection and collaboration atmosphere.
That's so exciting. And I'm very excited to be part of that. I'm beyond excited. It's one of the things I told my mom, how you,
I love
the things that you're
it.
excited about. Hey, mom, guess what? So, anyways, and I'm excited for that event. And that's going to be coming out here shortly. I think next week when this podcast goes live, they'll be able to sign up for your event. And absolutely love all the tips and tricks that you gave because you left us with some actionable steps that people can actually take themselves to get off of social media and get that confidence that they don't have to depend on it and don't have to spin their wheels so much with being in that one platform that does drain them completely. I think we've come up to the end of our time. So, do you have any other last words of wisdom that you would like to share? If not, I can let you head out for the day.
Yeah, I love it. Two little things. So if you
Mhm.
decide you want to join us for the event, it is May 4th through the 8th. It's a full week. We have live events. We have lots of speakers, so much golden nuggets that's going to happen. It is a fire hose. So you have to be forewarned. It's a fire hose. You're going to learn a lot. But because of that, we're doing another event that if you get the free ticket, you get a free ticket to the implementation week as well, which is the end of May. And in that week, we're going to do coaching and support to actually implement what you learn and create your strategy, and to start testing your marketing strategies off social media. So that's what I think would make this event much more unique than others. It's usually just a lot of learning and motivation, and you leave all excited, like you're, on a big high, and then the next Monday you're back to what you were doing. I don't want that for you. And that's why we're doing implementation week with it. So it's going to be a lot going on in May, but it's going to be so much fun. But the other thing I want to leave with you is I want you just to think about, especially when it comes to like God leading your business, I lead with my values. So I want to think about, what are my values in this season and what are my priorities in this season when it comes to family, when it comes to spiritual growth, when it comes to business. Like, think about those things first, and then it makes prioritizing and doing the work much easier, because now you can make your decisions through that lens. Is this actually going to fit with where I'm at right now and with the values I have, with what's important to me, or does it not fit? And no is just as great as yes. Because I think if you lead with no, you can always come back and say yes. Where if you lead with yes, it's harder to say no and backtrack. And so it's okay to say no. Sometimes saying no means yes, and for another opportunity that's going to come along. So once you get into connecting and collaborating, you're going to get lots of opportunities, and you shouldn't say yes to every one of them. So that's why I say lead with those values, like really focus in and hone in on what those are and put them in front of you.
And thank you for saying that, because people do need permission sometimes to say no, that they don't have to say yes to everything, because that can be a thing where you don't want to disappoint somebody. And if they asked you, don't want to put them in that situation. So thanks for giving people permission to say no, because not everybody does that.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved this conversation. I'm just so thankful to be here with you and to get connected with you. We got connected, I think, through somebody else. So it's just fun. That's what happens in the business world when you're willing to, reach out, step out in just even a little way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I hope you make it a wonderful week.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. Yay! Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you found this episode valuable and learned some actionable tips that you can implement in your business so that you can feel accomplished and less stressed. If you enjoyed this show, please take a quick minute to share this with your business bestie, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps me reach more business owners just like you. Remember, with the right system and mindset, you can achieve the success your heart desires. Thank you for tuning in. I look forward to chatting with you next time. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a wonderful week. And don't forget, let's grow, friends.